Hello everyone. We are now taking NCERT of Human Geography, that is 12th standard NCERT. It is one of the very elementary topics of our syllabus which has got a big say not just in the prelims examination but also main. The first chapter that I am picking up from this text is about nature of geography, how exactly we take the content matter of human geography and its development as the discipline in absolute orientation to what is covered in NCERT. It talks about the genesis of geography, specifically human geography, and what are the approaches that we take up with human geography in the chronology of development of geography, as we decided that a certain approach or a method to geographical study was precisely insufficient to cater its dimension. So when we talk about development of geography, we talk about development of human geography essentially, with some of the very popularly talked about ideas like determinism, possibilism, stop and go determinism. Apart from it, humanistic and behavior studies are also being mentioned in our NCERT. And when we take the reference of development of human geography, we don't miss out on talking about spatial or regional analysis. So without wasting much time, we are beginning with our study of nature of geography as per first chapter of NCERT 12th standard. So if I begin by referring what is geography, so it's a very fine and crisp definition that I get from this diagram. It reads, geography is the study of the world's environment and man interaction within the environment. That means I'm taking up two aspects from here. What is that? Geography is the study of world environment, and the second term is human interaction with the environment. In that point, statement 2 has to be given emphasis. Geography thus has two parts. One is physical geography, which we have been covering so far in our study. That is the study of Earth's natural features, mountains, rivers, soil, vegetation, weather. And human, we can also call it cultural. That is cultural geography or human geography, which is the study of human culture and man-made feature. Whenever we talk about geography, we essentially take into account it being a spatial discipline. What is meant by spatial discipline? Everything from the geographical perspective has to be given a dimension in the real world, and that dimension in the real world is correlated with both physical environment as well as human environment. So are we supposed to study these two in absolute distinction to each other? No. So I'll again be emphasizing on this statement, man's interaction within the environment. So this is how we take definition of geography as a discipline. In more easier or simpler words, we can say geography is the discipline that attempts to study man-environment relation. And this relation has to be studied in spatial perspective. Now we want to see it from NCERT. Can you notice our first page of this chapter very clearly says that core concern of geography as a discipline is to understand the earth as home of human beings, and also to study those elements which have sustained them. Thus, the emphasis is on the study of nature and human being. You will realize that geography got subjected to dualism and the wide-ranging debate starting whether geography is the discipline that should be law-making or descriptive, ideographic, nomothetic. I'll talk about this expression slightly later. So we'll be dealing up it in slight later terms. Right now, what geography is all about? Geography is the study of man-environment relation, wherein we attempt to study Earth as the home of the humans. Now, when we take the reference of development of geography as a discipline, I need to understand few of the developmental stages to it. And in order to make rational sense with it, let us take support of this diagram. There are 5 different themes of geography that we need to be aware of. When we say geography is the study of Earth as home of humans, Is it sufficient for us to understand geography and geographical field of inquiry? Answer stands as no. So what exactly we need to interpret to proceed further with our study is that we believe in 5 different themes as geographers, and that goes as location, region, place. Mind it, all these are spatial aspects of study. And it also includes movement and interaction. So when I have to study geography, I study it from these 5 perspectives and slightly detailing each one of them. Right, spatial dimension 1, that is called location. Location is one of the 5 themes in geography. When we in geography attempts to study location, we ask simple question, where is it? Now, where is it can relate to physical as well as human environment. Don't miss to notice it includes 2 subparts to it. One is called relative location, 2 is called absolute location. What is relative location? I am sitting on your right, or I live nearby you. These are the locations which are relative in nature. One of the very common examples that we can cite to prove this stand is that don't we refer Southwest Asia as Mid-East, right? So what is the logic of calling Southwest Asia Mid-East? It is mid towards east from United States of America. So which type of location it is? Relative. And what is the absolute location? Gives a pinpoint or exact location. So when we talk about geography's first theme, which is denoting its spatial dimension, we talk about location. And when we talk about location, we believe in 2 different approaches to it, both absolute and relative. And it is with absolute location that the use of latitudes and longitudes becomes significant. We can define the location in terms of absolute defined position on the map of world. Theme number 1, location. Theme number 2, place. Place is also related to the spatial dimension. Then how it is different from location? Place is different from location because it asks the question what it is like rather than where it is. So location talks about where it is, place talks about what it is like. So it will include physical features and cultural characteristics. So here comes physical geography versus human geography. And I am purposefully writing versus because I have kept in reserve a term mentioned in our NCERT, dualism. I'll just talk about it in a while. So what it is like? Location is like what? Is it physical feature as in things like climate, vegetation, landform will be in the physical domain, and human interaction would all be the things that describes the place. So place is the characteristics of location. Theme number 2, place. Theme number 3, region. Now, region is something which is such elaborately used in geography that defining it in a single point becomes difficult. But still we read it out from here. How are places similar or different? So, places are what they are and how they are similar or different. Supposedly I say we have learned climatic regions of the world. Say for example, we are saying Indonesia and Amazon basin in Brazil makes example of equatorial climate, AF, Köppen's classification. So Indonesia and Amazon becomes which type of region? Homogeneous region. So region talks about how the places are similar to each other. Homogeneous can be applied in terms of physical environment. See, it is written here, physical. It can be cultural also, like from northern part of Africa via Southwest Asia to Central Asia. We have got consistent practice of Islamic culture. So, which type of region it becomes? Homogeneous. So, AF type of climate makes places are similar. Which places are similar? Same climatic region. Similarly, cultural region. Northern Africa, Southwest Asia and Central Asia combines to form the Islamic cultural region. So, it is all about homogeneity. But it also reads how they are different from each other. That means apart from studying homogeneity, we are also supposed to study heterogeneity. And this heterogeneity paved way to what has been referred as areal differentiation. Break up the term, it becomes easier. Area, how area differs from each other. So that difference again can be taken from physical, political or economic, cultural perspective. So what is a region? Region is also the spatial dimension. So theme number 1 was location, where it is. Theme number 2 was place, what it is. And theme number 3 is region. How are the places similar? Similar, homogeneous. Homogeneous, we can call them formal region. Or are different from each other. Areal differentiation. Theme number 3, region. The theme number 4 is movement. How do people, goods and ideas move from one location to other? People moving. Migration. Goods moving. Trade. Ideas do move with people. Ideas also moves with other means. So we have got basically 2 types of idea related movement. We call them diffusion, that is relocation, and expansion. So how does idea moves? If idea moves with people, it is called relocation. European settlers moved from Europe and settled New World. This settlement of New World resulted in the establishment of Protestant Christianity as well as Indo-European. So Protestant Christianity, the religious ideology, and Indo-European, the linguistic family, to Anglo-America, to major part of Oceania. So which type of idea diffusion it is? Relocation. So movement is theme number 4 of geography, and movement is asking the question, how do people, goods, idea move from one location to other? And we can generalize it as movement of people is essentially related to migration. People's movement can relate to the movement of ideas also. Goods is largely with the trade. With the study of movement, we must not miss out on linear distance, time distance, and psychological distance. That means with movement, we believe in 3 different types of distances. And what does that stand for? The linear distance simply means how far a person, idea or product has to travel. I have to travel this many miles. It is actually the measurable distance that we can talk about. Time distance, in place of the distance for me to travel this many kilometers, this many miles, I'll be talking about, refers to how long it takes to get there. So linear distance and time distance do have relation to each other, because longer distance I travel, more time it will involve. So they do have got the relation. So I place A and B to be related to each other. Now I am talking about C. The psychological distance refers to how people view distance. Is it not that we sometimes find it very difficult to interact with our neighbors? Whether it is in terms of linear distance or time distance, it is negligible, it's next door neighbor. But I find a sort of psychological distance or any other type of perception that makes me reluctant to be friendly or getting to interaction with the person that is very nearby. It can be my colleague, it can be my peer group, it can be any other person whom I am otherwise in terms of linear distance or time distance very close. So read it properly. Refers to how people view distance. Study shows that more familiar we become with a place, we think it is closer. And don't take it with place only, take it with humans also. And I'll actually make you understand this. In human geography, the term space and the term place is not having similar meaning. So when I say place, I'm by default talking about human. 4 themes of geography learned so far. The 5th and the final theme of geography is human environment interaction. How do people relate to their physical world? How do people relate to their physical world? People learn to use what the environment offers them. They can either change the environment to fit their needs or they can live with the aspects they cannot control. Here comes, they can change, possibilism, they can live with determinism. NCERT essentially talks about human geography as the study of man-environment relation. So what is possibilism? Possibilism is when we humans can change the physical environment to live in, and determinism when we simply live with the aspects that we cannot control. So before I proceed, geography, the spatial discipline, deals with physical and human environment. It has got 5 themes: location, place, region, movement, and interaction. Location, where, place, what, region, homogeneity versus difference, movement of people, goods, ideas, interaction of man and environment either as determinism or as possibilism. Now, if geography has to study so many things, it automatically comes up as one approach or one method of the study will not suffice it. And that is the reason, as I take the reference of NCERT, I'll talk about dualism. Development of geography is not just related to physical versus human as dualism. It is dualism between determinism and possibilism. It is dualism between ideographic versus nomothetic. It is the dualism between systematic versus regional, as mentioned in our NCERT. So basically, what do I mean by dualism? Dualism is something that is related to the parallel approach or idea. And none of the approach is such that we can discard it. It do incorporate certain benefits or relation to it. Like, if I say geography is a deterministic approach, is it not that when we talk about certain human activities, even today, in sense that rice is majorly cultivated in monsoonal Asia, it is determined by nature, so nature becomes dominant. But if I take possibilism into account, since industrial revolution, is it not that humans have been in the position of molding the nature or natural dictates, so it treats human to be more effective? When I take the reference of ideographic and nomothetic, it is all about empirical and the theory building approach. Like, geography can be an essential ideographic discipline, means I am taking the descriptive empirical approach. That everything is such unique that you need to take an individual descriptive approach of study. And if I say no, geography is a nomothetic discipline, that means I need to take deductive approach. What is deductive approach? I can actually generate theory building. I can generalize. I may not be talking about description. So is theory building the approach of geography? Yes. And is geography an empirical discipline? Yes, we get to every area, every culture has got its difference to each other. And how do I understand systematic versus regional? I can easily comprehend systematic versus regional with the support of this simple table. I am purposefully making it a simpler one. Supposedly, we are treating 3 regions in our study. We have given them A, B, C as the name. And we have got few characteristics for this region, and let us maintain simplicity of figure and writing it as physical characteristics, population characteristics, and economic characteristics, right? If I pick up area B and study all the 3 characteristics, I am following which approach of analysis? Regional. But in place of it, I pick up only population and I study all the areas A, B and C. Which approach I am following? Systematic. What is the benefit systematic is giving me? Comparison. And what is the benefit regional has given me? Enlargement. When I study only geography of India, I am following it from the regional perspective. But when I am studying it for world, I get a smaller viewpoint because I am at the smaller scale analysis, but I get a comparison. Indian sex ratio, for example, as per 2011 census. Example I am citing, population we have selected. Indian sex ratio as per 2011 census is 940 females per 1000 male. It is the highest level that India has attained since 1971 census. But number 1, it is less than global average of 984 females per 1000 male. And among the top 10 most populous countries of the world, it is second lowest. So we are happy that we have reached 940, but we need to be worried about that it is not that pleasing data. So if I take population study in India, I get enlarged version for it. But once I take it in comparison to global study, I get the real scenario. That is where dualism becomes important. I am reading what I highlighted to be dealt up later again. okay, you will realize that geography got subjected to dualism and the wide ranging debates started whether geography as a discipline should be a law making, nomothetic, or descriptive ideographic, whether its subject matter should be organized and approached, the study should be region or systematic. Dualism between ideographic and nomothetic. So what is ideographic approach? Ideographic approach is that we are descriptive. Every area has to be dealt up separately, empirical. And nomothetic is that you develop theories on it. And regional systematic, I have taken you that with the details. I read next statement now. Geographical phenomena can be interpreted theoretically or through historic institutional approach. These have been the issues for intellectual exercise, but finally, you will appreciate that the dichotomy between physical and human is not very valid one, because nature and human are inseparable elements and should be seen holistically. It is an interesting note that both physical and human phenomena are described in metamorphs using symbols from human anatomy. What exactly this statement is talking about? In dualism of geography, we can have many debates in the development, but what is essential for us to take, that it is difficult for us to segregate physical from human environment. And for that we have got several, say metamorphs that are being utilized. Interesting ones are being mentioned in our NCERT: face of earth, eye of the storm, mouth of the river, snout of the glacier, neck of the isthmus, profile of the soil. These are very important terms that comes up from organism. So there is an overlap of the utility of the terminology between the two. And what is these two? Physical and human environment. And then the table gives me certain expressions. Geography is defined. Human geography is defined. Ratzel was the propounder of determinism. His deterministic idea is essentially called as social Darwinism. He was a determinist. Human geography is the synthetic study of relationship between human society and earth surface. Synthesis is being emphasized. Ellen Churchill Simple, very strong determinist. She was an American scholar. Human geography is the study of the changing relationship between unresting man and unstable earth. Dynamism is important here. And if I take the definition given to us by Paul Vidal de Lablache, he was a French scholar and a propounder of possibilism. He is also considered to be father of human geography. Conception resulting from a more synthetic knowledge of the physical laws governing our earth and of the relations between the living being which inhabited it. Human geography offers a new conception of interrelationship. So what do I take as interactive link between man and environment? Synthesis, dynamism. We were nomadic herders to begin with. Today, most of the areas, nomadic herding have been supplemented by commercial livestock ranching or commercial agriculture. And interaction. Human geography is the study of synthesis, dynamism, and interaction. Interaction between man and environment. And this interaction between man and environment can be taken up as per our NCERT into naturalization of humans and humanization of nature. Which type of relation we are talking about? Mutualistic. Human beings interact with their physical environment with the help of technology. It is not important what human beings produce and create, but it is extremely important with the help of what tools and techniques do they produce and create. Technology indicates the level of cultural development of the society. Human beings were able to develop technology after they developed better understanding of natural laws. For example, the understanding of concept of friction and heat helped us to discover fire. Similarly, understanding the secrets of DNA and genetics enabled us to conquer many diseases. We use the law of aerodynamics to develop faster planes. Now you can see that knowledge about nature is extremely important to develop technology, and technology loosens the shackles of environment on human beings. In the early stages of their interaction, I am star marking it, with their natural environment, humans were greatly influenced by environment. They adapted to the dictates of nature. This is so because the level of technology was very low and the stage of human social development was primitive. Star mark again. This type of interaction between primitive human society and strong forces of nature is called environmental determinism. What is environmental determinism? Environmental determinism is that determinism where nature is strongest. Nature determines human course of action. Human action. Because technological capacity was comparatively weaker. So when I take the reference of naturalization of humans and humanization of nature, naturalization of humans goes with environmental determinism. The people begin to understand their environment and the forces of nature with the passage of time. With the social and cultural development, humans develop better and more efficient technology. They move from a state of necessity to state of freedom. They create possibilities with the resources obtained from the environment. The human activities created cultural landscape. The imprint of human activities are created everywhere. Health resorts on highlands, huge urban sprawl, field, orchards, pastures, rolling hills, ports on the coast, and etc. So human activity, human imprint on natural domain is example of cultural landscape. And what facilitates cultural landscape? It is technology. Highlighting it with a star mark. The earlier scholar termed this as possibilism. Nature provides opportunity and human makes use of these, and slowly nature gets humanized and start bearing the imprint of human endeavor. What is possibilism? Possibilism is nature being treated to be not more than an advisor. I just provide possibility and man is free to choose. This is interactive relation between man and environment. So our theme number 5, I hope you are recalling, and I am simply taking the term human can change or can live with. When we are living with, which approach we are following? Determinism, or which else is the term that can be added to it? Environmental determinism. And if we are changing it, it is possibilism. So what is one of the 5 themes in geography? Man-environment relation, essentially talking about interaction in possibilistic or deterministic approach. Are these deterministic ideas sufficient altogether for the geographical study? A geographer, Griffith Taylor, introduced another concept which reflects the middle path, Madhyam Marg, between the two ideas of environmental determinism and possibilism, and he termed it as neo-determinism or stop-and-go determinism. So if man-environment relation has to be taken into account, which are the two extreme dualistic approach? It is environmental determinism and it is possibilism, and in between is stop and go determinism. Those of you who lives in cities and those of you who have visited a city might have seen that traffic is regulated by lights on the crossroad. Red light means stop, green light, get set, go. The concept shows that neither is there a situation of absolute necessity, environmental determinism, nor there is a condition of absolute freedom, possibilism. It means that human being can conquer nature by obeying it. They have to respond to red signal and can proceed in their pursuits of development when the nature permits the modification. And that is the reason when we talk about Griffith Taylor's stop and go determinism, it very clearly gives us the present purview of the things. Like, since industrial revolution, what we have done? Since industrial revolution, we have been exponential with our course of development. And this exponential nature has resulted into ozone layer depletion, greenhouse gases effect, global warming, receding glacier, degrading land, and so on and so forth. Neo-determinism conceptually attempts to bring a balance, nullifying the either or dichotomy. Man and nature can mutually coexist. There is no absolute compulsion and there is no absolute freedom. You have to take the balance between the two. So what we have learned so far, we have learned determinism, nature being prominent, possibilism, human being prominent, and Griffith Taylor's work, neo-determinism or stop and go determinism, which talks about development in the humanistic perspective. The idea of Griffith Taylor can easily be taken up in this geographical space diagram. I can easily associate it with neo-determinism. Because can you notice the mutualistic relation that has been highlighted here? Man, nature, social relationship in space, relationship among environmental factor. Settlement, the place where humans live. Environment, land use, infrastructure, socio-economic framework and landscape. Environmental component, environment, physical agent. Like if I say land use, I'll be cultivating, I'm writing agriculture, I'll be cultivating only when the soil is fertile enough for me to cultivate. And I'll continue to cultivate only when I maintain the soil fertility. So can we notice this feedback relation that has been shown with this set of arrow between man and environment? So neo-determinism is more of a counterbalancing viewpoint which emphasizes on how man and environment, that is human environment and physical environment, tends to influence each other because they have got a feedback equation or feedback relation to them. One more easier diagram. Two-way relationship between people and environment. The relationship between people and their environment is symbiotic, involving both resource, opportunity and hazard constraint. So I want you to see the arrows very carefully. This is environmental quality. Environmental quality is providing us with resource and opportunities, which is being utilized by population, culture and society. It also gives us hazard and constraint, which is influencing population, culture and society. Now, because of resource and hazard, it is that population develops technology to ensure resource use, which is going to influence the environment quality. Population tends to develop technology to utilize resource, and these technological hazards will result into environmental quality. So when we use the term symbiotic relation, it comes from the term symbiosis. Symbiosis is living together with mutual coexistence. If I'll not maintain, I won't be in the position of living for long. So man-environment interactive relation is essentially the relation that has got none of them showing dominance as forever. So Griffith-Taylor's man and environment relation makes an essential case for geography and geographical development. NCERT also gives us the broad stages and the thrust of human geography that talks about how from the geographical account, colonial period, exploration and description was there. So we had the development of trade interest prompted the discovery and exploration of new areas, and this is how there was the development of geography in the very beginning phase. So it can be taken up as the preliminary phase. Regional analysis. The elaborate description of all aspects of regions were undertaken. The idea was that the regions were the part of the whole, that is the earth. So the understanding of part in totality would lead to understanding of the whole. So what is regional approach in geography? That is also a very important thing for us to apply. The regional analysis marked up its beginning in the colonial period, specifically after exploration. Throughout 1930s and the interwar period, areal differentiation came into being. Just recall, we have already taken into account that geography involves three themes that are related to location. It's location, space and region. And when we talk about region, we talk about how the regions are similar within and different from each other. So what is broad perspective here? The focus was on identifying uniqueness of any region and understanding how and why it was different from the other. Hartshorne. 1939, the prominent human geographer, American scholar, who is credited of coining and popularizing this. Now, in late 1950s to 60s, spatial organization. This spatial organization is all about geography being the example of nomothetic discipline. Use of computers, sophisticated statistical tools, laws of physics were often applied. We were talking about the quantitative techniques that were utilized in geography. Nomothetic, theory building. Nomothetic, utilization of GIS. So geography was being made a scientific discipline. This approach is what is referred as quantitative revolution or quantification in geography. This resulted into the genesis of what is being applied as, is geography gaining from quantification? Yes, but 70s, dehumanizing geography. So whether I say humanistic tradition, radical tradition or behavior tradition, it is the discontainment of the quantitative revolution and its dehumanized manner of doing geography led to the emergence of three new schools of thought in human geography in 70s. And when we talk about 80s and 90s onwards, it is post-modernization of geography, where there is the grand generalization and applicability of universal theories of human conditions, wherein we talk about well-being, where we'll talk about perception, cognition, and many more things. Now, to make sense with this table, I am creating this diagram. Now, when we talk about development of geography through time, we take support of the study of paradigm, how the ideas marks up their change in due course of time. It was essentially given to us by Kuhn, and Kuhn has given us 5 stages in the development of the paradigm. The table that we have taken into account can be best learned with this very simple support. Till Darwin, and it is an interesting thing. I am in 1859, the year when we had the publication of Darwin's idea. Until Darwin, geography was in pre-paradigm phase. So we were not having a defined course of development of it. Professionalism is largely correlated with the beginning of the theme of geography, like Darwin's influence can be applied here. So what is influence of Darwinism to generate professionalism? Influence of Darwinism is about organization. Influence of Darwinism is everything being systematic. Influence of Darwinism that everything has got cause and effect relation. Like there was nothing called random approach. That led to the paradigm phase 1, which marked the beginning of determinism and possibilism in details with the work done by Ratzel and Blush. When we talk about paradigm phase 1 and the crisis that evolved. So crisis that evolved was geography becoming descriptive and losing out on its scientific fervor. So came in quantitative revolution, the scientific revolution. And this led to the dehumanization of geography and thus the beginning of human, radical and behavior studies. Are you making sense? So I have got the phases in the development of geography, and all these phases actually represents what is being mentioned in our table. And how do we judge these tables? They are basically given to us by Kuhn as pre-paradigm, professionalism, paradigm phase 1, crisis revolution, and paradigm phase 2. NCERT also talks about few more things, but before I go there, I want to pick up this. In the humanistic tradition, behavior study, when we talk about space, we essentially talk about physical environment. When we talk about place, we talk about human environment, and we take meaning or perception or feeling of it. So you have to take the references of these overlap to understand what is the humanistic or perceptional approaches in geography and how it is different from the otherwise hardcore possibilism. That when I talk about perception, we talk about aesthetics, satisfaction, personal history. And when we talk about the physical environment, it is objective. Here it is quite vague as place. Phenomenological. Phenomenology is about individual ideas and perception. What an individual is feeling. Individual's idea. And how individual ideas is influenced by the physical environment and certain perceptual or mental construct that human has. And that is the reason human environment is a mosaic of the perceptual or cognitive environment and the physical environment with which they have been interacting. So when I have to take the crux of humanistic approach, I am essentially talking about human perception, ideas about place and space. It talked about inequality, human suffering, so from normative, we are talking again about what is real. So it is more about perceptional and it is more about real. This can also be taken up as an example of dualism in geography. Human geography deals with social geography, urban geography, political geography, population geography, settlement geography, and economic geography, which has got many subfields and overlapping sister discipline. As I can say, behavior geography, social well-being, leisure, cultural, gender geography, historical, medical. And if I make sense with this table, that political geography has electoral geography and it has got its overlap with political science, has to be. If I am talking about geography of leisure, geography of social welfare, so welfare economics and sociology, where I easily see an overlap, cultural geography or anthropology, where again I see an overlap. Now to make sense with it, so if I am in physical geography part of this circle, I have got climatology which comes from meteorology, I have geomorphology which comes from geology, I have soil geography which comes from pedology, comes from biology as well as ecological study. Similarly, I have got mathematical geography which comes from astronomy. So this is physical geography. And if I take human geography, which we have talked about in terms of our table. So political science, political geography. Anthropology, cultural geography. History, historical geography. Economics, economic geography. Sociology, social geography. Geography is a discipline of synthesis. It derives its content matter from every other known discipline. So whether it is physical sciences or social sciences, geography, human geography, is not just deriving its content matter from physical geography, but also from all the physical sciences altogether. Welfare or humanistic school of thought in human geography was mainly concerned with different aspects of social well-being. It included housing, health, education. A radical school of thought employed Marxian theory to explain basic cause of poverty deprivation. That is the reason welfare approach and radical approaches are considered to be having interrelation with each other. Behavior school of thought laid great emphasis on the experience and also perception of space by social categories based on ethnicity, race, and religion. Because perception is determined by reality and in turn determines it. Take support of these approaches and have a very sincere reading of this chapter. This chapter is a different frame chapter. Rest of the following chapter about population, settlement, human development, agriculture, etc. is where you can easily find compatibility. This is slightly out of box. Take support of this and try to study. I want to close down on quickly revising that geography essentially started as man-environment relation. This man-environment relation resulted into the development of one more theme in geography, which essentially included the aspects as location and place and region, movement. Man-environment relation as paradigm phase 1 along with regional approach etc. led to quantitative revolution, and this quantitative revolution dehumanizing geography facilitated growth of humanistic tradition, perception based study or radical approach, what causes poverty and how we can minimize it. This is how the approach goes. And geography as a discipline of synthesis not just derive the content matter from physical sciences but also entire range of all the human aspects or social sciences, and that is where geography and geographical content matter is highly elaborate. Happy learning, all the very best to all of you.